webcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the State of Georgia's FY 2021 Cdbg Applicants Workshop. My name is Joni Perry, and I'm the Division Director for the Community Finance Division, where our Cdbg program is our flagship federal program. This year, we will be introducing additional new things in our program, and we always try to keep relevant and ahead of the curve. This will be the first year that we will be accepting online applications. This is actually a goal of the department, is to go online as much as possible. Yesterday, our Cdbg disaster recovery program accepted their first round of applications online, so that will give us a good pilot to use before the big Cdbg round begins. Friday afternoon will be devoted, and at the end of the session, to instructions on how to use the application portal, so please stay tuned for that. We're also very happy to have our partners at the Department of Audit, Historic Preservation, which is now a new part of Dca, and our planning office also joining us today to officially kick off the competition. The workshop is really kind of segmented in the agenda, you'll notice, into two general themes. Today will be based more on federal and state requirements, and tomorrow with application development. This is kind of a bittersweet introduction for me. I know the Cdbg grapevine is pretty strong, so most of you have probably heard that I'm retiring as of March 1st. So this will be my last official duty at a Cdbg workshop. I'm very excited about entering this next stage of my life. You can see I'm already home broadcasting, which about probably half our staff will be today. But anyway, thank you all. It's been a great 37 years. What we do is important, very gratifying. So that'll be the hard part of leaving, along with the great people we work with. But I'm also excited to not have my alarm go off every day. Anyway, at this point, I'll turn it over to Kim Carter, who will then take over. Thank you all.
Thank you, Joni. I really appreciate it. Again, my name is Kim Carter. I serve as the Director of the Office of Community Development. As Joni mentioned, the Community Development Block Grant Program is our flagship program. And so today, during the Applicants Workshop, the purpose of the workshop is to walk you through the Cdbg program and what the expectations are, primarily for our applicants in our annual competition for this year. Let's go over a few housekeeping rules. First, all applicants are in listen-only mode during the presentations. A copy of the slides are available in your handouts section. You may download them at any time, as well as the applicant's manual. During the question and answer period, those questions will be moderated. So if you will please use the chat feature to enter in your questions at that time. And if you have any other questions that might be more specific to your local government or to your specific application, we ask that you send those to cdbg.biz@dca.ga.gov. While we have some staff here on camera, I'd like to go ahead and introduce some of our staff. First, we have Brent Allen. Brent is the Field Services Manager for our Cdbg Field Rep team. We also have Rob Shaw. Rob serves as our database guru, as well as serves on our environmental team. We have Glenn Misner, who serves as the Director of the Department of the Office of Neighborhood Revitalization and Stabilization Program. We have Kathleen Vaughn, who serves as the Cdbg Compliance Manager, and Melissa Thompson, who also serves as a Cdbg representative and is one of our housing specialists with the program. So thank you all for joining us today. You'll hear from most of these, all of these, throughout the next 2 days on various topics related to Cdbg. Let's go over our agenda for today. As Joni mentioned, today is separated into the federal and state requirements. These times are approximate, but today we will have an overview of the Cdbg program, as well as a few changes to our method of distribution. We will discuss local government requirements and other requirements such as procurement, citizens participation, and the environmental review process. And then we will break for lunch. After lunch, you will hear from our partners that will help us with state and other federal requirements, such as the comprehensive plan, the service delivery strategy, local government audit requirements, as well as Section 106. And then we will wrap up the day. So let's go ahead and get started. The goals of the Cdbg program are, number one, to address state and community priorities, ensure fairness in the treatment of all of our applications, as well as to develop and promote affordable housing throughout the state. Additionally, we want to assist communities in preserving and developing infrastructure and public facilities within their communities. This is where we see our water and sewer projects, housing projects, street and drainage, building projects, all types of infrastructure and public facility improvements. And lastly, our last goal is to support economic development activities, primarily benefiting low to moderate income persons through job training and job creation. And you'll hear all of our programs and how we assist in accomplishing these goals throughout the day. This Georgia Cdbg program is comprised of multiple programs. The first is our newest program, which is the Cdbg CV program. This is a new program that was issued under the CARES Act. And we have roughly $82 million to disperse that will be presented in 3 rounds throughout the year. We will offer a notice of funding availability for that program, and it will include its own application, application workshop as well. So stay tuned for more information on the Cdbg CV program. For our immediate threat and danger program, which you will hear more about on tomorrow afternoon, we have allocated $500,000 of our annual allocation to this program. The Employment Incentive Program will have an allocation of $6 million. And the Redevelopment Fund Program will also have an allocation of $1.5 million. Last year, we rolled out a new program called the Cdbg Innovative Grant Program. We awarded 1 grant to the City of LaGrange for $2 million. We do anticipate offering another round of the innovative grant cycle, and that will also be announced through a notice of funding availability and also have a separate applications manual. Our loan guarantee program is a part of our method of distribution, and so it has a pledge not to exceed $5 million of our allocation. And the balance of the HUD allocation after administration and technical assistance, as well as these set-aside programs, is allocated towards our annual competition. Each year, we have received approximately $40 million from HUD for the state of Georgia. The 2021 allocation has not yet been released yet, but once we get that information, we will, of course, disseminate that to all local governments. So who are the eligible applicants for our CDBG program. The state of Georgia CDBG program is designed to assist local governments that do not participate in HUD's entitlement or the urban county program. Individuals, for-profit, and nonprofit entities are generally not eligible to apply directly for CDBG, but they may partner with the local government on projects that meets a community's needs. So listed on this slide are the entitlement programs. So if your local government is listed in these bullet points here, you're currently not eligible to participate in the state CDBG program, but we may have an opportunity to work with your program through the CDBG CV program, which will be announced later in the year. All of the projects that are funded with CDBG dollars must meet one of the following national objectives. The first is benefit to low to moderate income persons. This benefit must be met on either an area benefit, which means that the project benefits a specific geographic area, also known as a target area, and it may also be city or county-wide. Each of these activities that are in the project, for instance, a water activity or a sewer activity, must benefit at least 70% of the low to moderate income persons in the area. And the entire geographic area must contain a population of at least 70% LMI persons. The second LMI national objective is under limited clientele that serve low to moderate benefit persons. This is where CDBG provides a physical space for low to moderate income persons, such as a health center or a senior center. Those who use the buildings are considered recipients, and therefore 70% of those beneficiary recipients must be low to moderate income persons. However, HUD presumes 100% low to mod benefit for recipients such as abused children, elderly persons, the homeless, persons living with AIDS, battered spouses, severely disabled, illiterate adults, and migrant farm workers. Under the housing benefit, 100% of the residents of the recipients of this benefit must be low to moderate income. Work is generally done on private property and is generally owner occupied. You will hear more about the housing components on tomorrow's presentation with Glenn Misner and Melissa Thompson. And then the final LMI benefit is jobs, where we mainly see these job creations in our economic development projects, where 51% of the jobs must either be available to or it must be available to LMI persons. The second national objective highlighted in green is the prevention of or an elimination of slum and blight. Our redevelopment program generally addresses this national objective, and it requires a local government to designate an area as blighted, either on an area or a spot basis. And it must also meet the definition of slum, blight, deteriorated, or a deteriorated area under state and local law. And lastly, the third national objective is urgent need. DCA's immediate threat and danger program generally addresses this national objective, and you will also hear more about this program on tomorrow afternoon. So what are some eligible projects for CDBG? Number one, any activity carried out by a grantee or a subrecipient must meet the following two conditions. First is to meet the national objectives, one of the national objectives that we just mentioned, and it must be an activity that is listed in the law as eligible. The law can be found in Section 105A of the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974. So here are some examples of eligible projects. It is not an all-inclusive list. However, it is typically projects that we see through the annual competition on a regular basis. Water and sewer projects, storm drainage, street improvements, housing clearance, housing rehabilitation and reconstruction, fire protection, senior centers, health centers, and boys and girls clubs. We do also see some publicly owned buildings come in as an eligible activity. However, these publicly owned buildings cannot be used for the general operation of local government. So your city halls and courthouses are generally ineligible as a Cdbg project. So conversely, what are directly ineligible activities? As I mentioned, buildings that conduct general government purposes, a direct grant to a for-profit business. You'll learn in our employment incentive program that we do have the opportunity to partner with for-profit businesses. However, the grant is provided to the local government and not to the business entity itself. Activities cannot be used for general governmental expenses, operating or maintenance expenses, new housing construction, lobbying efforts, movable furnishings and personal property, as well as land acquisition that is not directly tied to the national objective. In addition to eligible activities, the state of Georgia has also established threshold requirements for the annual competition. Those requirements include the submission of a complete application via our online portal. In years past, we accepted mail-in applications with an original and several copies. This year, with the establishment of the online portal, that will reduce the number of applications that we receive and the paper that's generated from it. Secondly, you have to comply with all deadline requirements as noted in the manual. You will notice the manual is attached in the handout section of the webinar. You can find specific information on the deadline requirements on pages 13 and 14 of the application. You must also meet all requirements as specified by DCA for curing any application deficiencies. The manual allows for the curing of specific deficiencies of the application and prescribes a 5-day reply period. And so you must also meet the deadline for the cure period. Fourthly, you must complete all professional procurement requirements. Any sole source requests must be submitted to DCA by the application deadline, but it doesn't have to necessarily have been approved by the deadline, but we must have it in-house by the application deadline of June 4th. And lastly, you must complete the tribal consultation portion of the environmental review no later than June 4th, which is the application deadline date. So what are the funding limit and match requirements for the annual competition? Applicants may apply for up to $750,000 for a single activity project. So this would be a project that is strictly one activity, such as water improvements. The second is multi-activity projects, which can receive up to $1 million. This would be a housing plus a infrastructure type of activity that would qualify under multi-activity projects. Local match requirements. We do not require match for any grants up to $300,000 or any grant that is used for single activity housing projects. For grants grant requests of $300,001 to $750,000, there is a 5% local match requirement. And for $750,001 or more, those grants require a 10% local match fund. Additionally, match must be cash. It can be loans, bond proceeds, grants, or other appropriated funds. However, the source should only be that of private or non-CDBG public funds. In-kind services are not considered cash match. So what are some of the changes in the method of distribution that you will see for this year? We have three major changes. First is the addition of the Cdbg CV program, which I'll go into a little more detail shortly. The addition of a governor or presidentially declared declaration in order to be eligible for the immediate threat and danger program. And then for the annual competition, there are 3 point-based additions to the method of distribution. As I mentioned earlier, the Cdbg CV program will be announced through a notice of funding availability. It will have a separate application workshop, and deadline. As you can see, it's comprised of 3 specific funding rounds, totaling approximately $83 million in total. Currently, DCA has submitted its substantial amendment to our action plan to HUD to include this program, and we are waiting to receive approval for our program design. So stay tuned for more information on this program. As I mentioned, given the ITAD program, which is immediate threat and danger, is intended to address situations which are urgent and unique, and that these situations typically occur due to state or federally declared disasters. We have updated our eligibility policy to better align with the national objective of urgent need. See Chapter 6 of the Applicants Manual for additional details on the immediate threat and danger program. As it relates to the bonus points for the annual competition, we've added bonus points based on project type. The state has the flexibility to determine its priorities from a wide range of eligible activities. Therefore, for the 2021 competition, project types in the categories of housing and water and/or sewer may receive 10 bonus points as long as other application criteria are met. The second bonus point criteria is the bonus points for regional cooperation and regional impact. A maximum of 30 bonus points may be earned for projects displaying regional cooperation and regional impact. An example of a project displaying these 2 items might be 2 cities coming together to consolidate their water systems. We understand the wide array of challenges in owning, maintaining, and operating a water system, in addition to budget constraints. These bonus points are designed to assist these communities in their efforts in developing projects of regional impact. Additionally, projects of this nature are eligible to receive a grant of $1 million versus the $750,000 maximum. And the last point-related category is the reduction of points for omissions and inconsistencies. For example, an application may be missing hydrological calculations, missing cost documentation, or have a beneficiary mismatch. The application may report low to moderate income beneficiaries in the narrative as one number, and then another number in the proposed accomplishment section, and yet another number in the survey table details. This category is not intended to randomly penalize applicants, but to address major omissions that leave gaps in telling us the big story or the big picture of the project, similar to a missing puzzle piece. So what are we trying to accomplish through the CDBG program? The first is better community planning, including better public input and strategic thinking in prioritizing the needs of the community and its financial opportunities. DCA's mission is to provide strong, vibrant communities across the state. Therefore, projects that provide for a greater quality of life, improved health and safety, as well as the ability and affordability of services help to serve that mission. And finally, with your help, we can increase the employment levels and the incomes of low to moderate income persons throughout the state of Georgia. So that's it for our CDBG overview. Let's see if we have any questions. The first question that we have is there a rough expected time for the NOFA or the CDBG CV after HUD approval? We don't have an expected time. As you can imagine, HUD is inundated with several states' substantial amendment approvals. And so once we hear back from them, we are anticipating going live hopefully within the late spring, hopefully by the late spring. The second question is, will non-entitlement communities be eligible for the CDBG CV program? Yes, there are components of the CDBG CV program that are directly related to both non-entitlement communities as well as entitlement communities. All right, I don't see any additional questions at this time. And so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to start a little early and start with Brent Allen, who will present on local government requirements.
So good morning, everyone. I know many of you are disappointed that we were not in Callaway Gardens this past December. I know for a lot of y'all that disappointment revolved around not being able to see me wear my green jacket. So I aim to please, so I'm wearing my green jacket today. I do have a dilemma because Santa Claus brought me a master's patch, and I'm really debating to put this on here. So I need y'all to send me some email and let me know, do I go with the master's patch and make it a full official master's jacket? So anyway, good to see y'all. Let me jump into my presentation. Okay, so this is a little bit of an abbreviated presentation that Kim and I did at a recipients workshop a couple of years ago, and we did it again at Applicants. So we're going to cover audits, the 504 requirements, SAM registration, timeliness, and the changes in local government contact information. So audits. Please send all audits to the Georgia Department of Audits and Accounts. Your Cdbg application is not eligible if your audits are delinquent. I'll cover a little bit more of that in just a second. We ask you to also, if possible, send your audits to TED, to the Carl Vinson Institute. They put them online in PDF format, and it makes it much easier for us when we're conducting closeout reviews on or grant awards to review those audits and make sure that those audits cover all the Cdbg funds that were expended. Otherwise, we have to send an email or a letter to the local government, ask them to send us their audit. So if possible, it makes it much easier if y'all will send it also to TED. But first and foremost, send it to the Georgia Department of Audits and Accounts. So your audit must be up to date for your application to be eligible. We've had applications get kicked out because their audit was not up to date, and we hate to see that because there's obviously a lot of manpower, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears goes into these applications. And so the last thing we want to see is one get kicked out because the audit's not up to date. We do have a website where you can check. Here's the link. As of yesterday, it was showing the list prepared and accurate as of February 5th, 2021. So if you're a grant writer and a community is asking you to write an application, and if they're on this list, then I would have a serious conversation with them to find out if they're going to get that rectified before the due date. And if they have many years of audits that are late, I would be very concerned about putting a lot of effort into that application until you're convinced that they're going to have all their audits up to date. Jackie Newbert will be discussing the local audit requirements. I believe it's later this afternoon. But this is, this should be one of the first things you're doing is checking to make sure that there's not going to be an audit problem that's going to disqualify your application. So the 504 requirement, everybody should be fairly familiar with this, but this is a requirement that applies to any recipient that receives federal funds. So it's similar to the Americans with Disability Act. It's looking at access to your facilities, to where you're going to be holding public hearings. If your local government has more than 15 employees, then you have to identify a 504 coordinator. And the coordinator will coordinate efforts to comply with the regulation and maintain records. And the main part of this is completing our DCA 504 meeting checklist. It's a checklist you go down and answer questions to see how accessible your facilities are to people with disabilities. If you identify any problems or any deficiencies, then you'll need to write a transition plan, which includes the steps necessary to complete the changes, and then a time schedule to complete that, and then identifying an agency official responsible for the implementation. So this is all about really trying to improve access to those with disabilities. And the checklist is in our manual. And you only really need to do this once. Once you've done that, keep it. Again, your 504 coordinator should keep that in records so that it's accessible if your community is awarded a grant. Part of the monitoring will be reviewing this part of the process, looking at the checklist, looking for the time schedule to complete. The SAM registration, the main thing we're looking for here is to check your expiration date. It's right here on this one for pay hire. This is one that we had in our manual as an example. So it was 10/24/2019. Ideally, the expiration would be through October of 2021 when we anticipate making awards, because we cannot make an award if your local government has an expired SAM number. You can update it 60 days before expiration. So again, put this on your checklist as you're getting closer to submitting applications. Identify what that date is and when you may need to update it. So timeliness, we generally talk about this at grant award, but it's also important to discuss now as your application is being put together, because there will be a timeliness general condition. The main point to remember at this point is we're looking to complete these projects in 2 years. So there's a 2-year timeline. These are the elements of the general condition. So you should be aware of these as you're putting together your timeline that'll be part of your application. Hopefully the design work will be completed sooner than 9 months, but these are the extremes that if you don't complete by this milestone, you're likely to get a nasty gram. 12 months on acquisition. And again, this is the latest. Most of the projects seem to take about 6 months for construction. So if you're starting right at 18 months, you're running right up to the 24 months. So again, this is not the ideal timeline. This is sort of the extreme. We would like to see these items completed before these milestones hit. And we always put this reminder in, especially if you have current awards, that we do reserve the right to cancel if the project is not moving forward. So changing local government contact. We are constantly sending out important information to advertise things like this applicants workshop. So it's important that we're able to reach the local governments. And so when local governments have turnover, a lot of times those emails will change and we don't know when that has happened. So we maintain a database of local officials and administrators that we use for official business. And we do have a way of letting us know when there's changes. This is the login. It's the same login credentials as with DCA planning surveys. And if you need assistance with this, here's an email. You can reach out to them. And so this is a list of all the people that you can include. Most do not include all these people, but we'd certainly need to see the chief elected official, manager or administrator, the clerk. We often see the finance director, but anyone that you feel that your local government would need to be receiving official correspondence from the Department of Community Affairs. So try to keep this in mind when you do have turnover in staff, because again, a lot of times we see that those individuals will have a unique email address that once they're gone, that contact is gone. We also suggest using a generic email that can then be assigned to the new employee that's taking that person's position. If you do that, you'll have continuity with email coming in. And that's all I have at this point. So Kim, I don't know if we have any questions. So Kim, I don't know if you're talking, but I can't hear you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. What I was saying is we always, on the Cdbg team, we always try to make sure that we copy our regional commissions whenever we send out messages. We have had some hiccups from time to time. However, I can state that 9 times out of 10, we always copy our regional commissions as well as our Cdbg reps and Dca reps to ensure that everybody is on the same page. We will make sure that going forward that we always make sure that they're copied just to make sure that everything's clear. But what Brent was speaking of is our Dca Contact Database. So this contact database is used not only by the Cdbg program, but the entire Dca staff and all of our divisions. And so it helps us to have one central repository where all that information is kept. So it's vitally important for you to update within the database whenever changes are made. I would go ahead and recommend that you do it at least on an annual basis. Just make a regular calendar reminder to do so. All right. Well, we will now take a 15-minute break. I understand we're early, but this will allow us to go ahead and listen to Kathleen's presentation in full without taking a break in between. And it'll also mean that we'll be able to end for a midday break or a little earlier and then start up at 1:30. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and start our 15-minute break. Let's come back actually to make it easier, we'll come back at 10 o'clock. All right, it is not, I show 9:42 myself, and so we'll come back at 10 o'clock. All right, thank you.
Kim, is
Yes.
my screen showing?
Yes, just not in full screen.
All right, I gotta get rid of this picture of myself. It's in the way. Get out of here. Okay.
See webcam,
Mm.
top right, the webcam button.
I got it. Ah. Come on. All right. How about now?
Yes. All right, you're ready to go.
Oh, okay. Well, welcome back, everyone. I don't have anything to say about the masters, but like Brent did. But of course, I wish we were all together in the same room, sharing the same space for this presentation. And even if I could see you on the on your camera, that would be nice to have some sort of visual interaction. But I am going to turn mine off while I present. And so I do have some good news. And that is that it will not take an hour and 45 minutes to get through this. So it'll probably be around an hour. So we'll get done a little early. Okay, so I am going to cover professional procurement, citizen participation, and environmental review requirements. Of course, as Kim mentioned, all three of these topics have some aspect of them requires threshold compliance for this year's application cycle. And we did do the professional procurement citizens participation also in May. So this is just a repeat of information. Uh-oh. All right.